Assembly instructions. Install the vacuum gauge. Oh, I had a knife in here. This doesn't matter which side I do. What's up? It says tighten the nut with appropriate force. The hell is that supposed to mean? Like, what's appropriate force? What's appropriate force? Nice instructions. Tighten with appropriate force. I'll grab a crescent wrench. All right, I'm putting together a vacuum chamber, and the instruction says to tighten the nut with appropriate force. Doesn't say how far, it just says with appropriate force. Not sure what that means. Like give her hell? What's appropriate force? Good enough, I suppose. Now it's going to drive me crazy because that's not centered. That's not too bad. Now what do? Prepare vacuum pump. Well, I already have that prepared. I don't know. If you're chatting, I don't see it. Somebody write something because I'm not seeing anything on here. So one of these Welcome to live chat. Yeah, I got all this. Square gasket. What do I need the square gasket for? I don't even know what I need it for. Has anybody put together one of these Sevier vacuum chambers? One of these big vacuum chambers. It's a 5-gallon. If there's a chat, I don't see it. I don't know. Do I have to do something special? All right, so I got this vacuum chamber lid. I got the gauge on. My question is, what is the square gasket for when I have a round chamber? It's called the square gasket. I could see if I had a square chamber. Ah, thanks, bud. You have to just see when people type got it. I'm trying to put together this vacuum pump. I got the one running, or vacuum chamber. I got a big one. And here's the lid. I got that with the gauge on it. And the instructions said to tighten the nut with appropriate force. What the hell is appropriate force? But then it gave me this square gasket. Doesn't say anything about appropriate force. And then it's got a filter on the one side, but then I've got this, like this liner. That's got to be a gasket. Oh, I wonder if that goes. There's like this gasket here. I bet that goes on the pot, right? To help seal it. I'm guessing that would probably wrap around the rim of that. I don't know what the square gasket's for, though. Unless this is wrong. Well, this is going to take an entire village to put this thing on. Yeah, they offer a square pot. You think they just send that little package with all of them? But I mean, what would you need it for the square one? I'm so confused on what that's for. I don't know if I'm going to get this gasket on here by myself. Maybe. Got him. Oh, nope. And now it's popping off on its own. It's kind of on there. It's weird because now that gasket I put on there, it says white rubber ring complimentary. I don't know. All right, I'll set that to the side. I'm still confused about what this gasket's for. Because even on the square one, they're showing the square gasket, but they don't say what it's for. I guess I'll have to look that one up. I don't know. I am not sure. So this goes to my vacuum pump. I don't think mine's threaded. I might have to do a... Might have to have a different fitting. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know. Because then this will sit right on there. I guess, and that'll create the seal. And then this goes to my vacuum pump, and my vacuum pump's got a different fitting on it. I'll have to see if that one even, that fitting might not work, I don't know. Might have to buy a fitting to make that work. I'm still just so totally confused about a square gasket on a round pot. I don't know what the gasket would be for. It's truly got me curious. If anything, I just set it to the side for now, huh? Like, where do I put it? Oh, yeah. Up here. But I'll be able to put some bigger stuff in there. And I'll be able to degas resin, pull the bubbles out of it before I pour, so there's less bubbles when after the pour is done, so that'll help. Just they give me a square patch for a round pot. That's funny. I've got my sweet gum pods in the vacuum chamber. If you don't know what a sweet gum pod is, see these? I don't know how well you guys can see them. Yeah, marshmallow. Suck the air out of a marshmallow. So that's what I got going in there. It's pulled a lot of the air out. It was pretty awesome at the beginning, because it just pulls all these bubbles out. But it's getting down. There's still a lot of bubbles, but probably be another hour or two of running that to pull out, to get it to a level to where I can let them soak overnight. Yeah, now the bigger pot, I think I'm going to need more cactus juice. Now that stuff here, that's the liquid you got to pour in there. About $120 a gallon. So not cheap. I don't know. Carbonated drinks? I would think it would, I don't know, would the can collapse? Now, don't get me started on that stuff. I don't want to all sorts of things I can try to implode. It's not really, it doesn't come from cactus, though. It's just the name. I know you'd think it would, but it doesn't. It's definitely a laboratory-made chemical. Yeah, but that thing's working real good right now. And I got some bigger things that I want to stabilize, but they don't fit in that cylinder. So that's why I got the bigger pot. And what I'll be able to do is put the stuff that I want to stabilize into like a pan, set the pan down in that big pot, and still use the vacuum chamber, so I don't have to waste a whole bunch of cactus juice. So I can just put it in a pan that exact size that I need, but then put it inside the pot. So that's what that's for. I need to make some bigger molds, I think. I should just put this on the stabilizing or the vacuum chamber. It's actually more fun to watch. Watch all the bubbles rise to the top. Well, if you... Yeah, when I was talking about degassing, I don't know how much of a delay there is in what I've said and what your response is, but if you're talking about the degassing epoxy in that big one, it like pulls all the bubbles out of the epoxy, all the air that from you mixing it, it'll pull most of it all out of there. And then when you go to pour, you'll still have some bubbles, but nowhere near if you mix it and then just go right to your pour. So your chance of it curing without any bubbles in it is a greater chance if you degas it using a vacuum chamber. I just want a big mold for these instead of like my biggest mold that I have right now is this one here. It's like 2x2 by 6, but I want like a 4x4 by, I don't know, 4 or 6. Now, you'll still get some bubbles in the epoxy, but like nowhere near as much if you degas. They call it degassing, but it's really pulling the bubbles out of it or pulling the air. Anytime you mix something, you're adding air. So whether it's egg whites, epoxy, whatever you're stirring, you're adding air to that mixture. So by putting it in the vacuum chamber, you'll pull all that air out. And with the cactus juice, well, those sweet gum pods, what I'm doing is, let me pull one out. I wonder how much of a delay there is. Let's see. I want to say, give me the word hello. It is 21 minutes exactly on my clock. I'm anxious to see what the delay is. And to what I see a hello. Boom. 15-second delay. Right, these are the sweet gum pods. They don't look very sweet, do they? Well, they look like they hurt you. But inside of those, it's not hollow. It's actually solid. I should get something to crush one. And so having it in the cactus juice with a vacuum pump on it, it's going to pull any air, because these are porous. Think of it as a sponge. All right, that sponge is full of air. And so if I were to put a sponge in there, it would suck all the air out of that sponge. And then when I release the vacuum, I take it off. As long as the liquid stays, as long as the sponge stays completely submerged in the liquid, that air is replaced with that cactus juice. It's a very fast swap. Air is gone, liquid goes into those air pockets. And what happens then is then you can bake the cactus juice in a convection or a toaster oven at 200 degrees, exactly 200 degrees. And it takes that and it hardens that juice inside the sponge and creates a solid brick of sponge. Like there's no air pocket, so it wouldn't absorb any more water. And so that's what I'm doing to these. Think of these as a sponge, which that would be one hurtful sponge. But I'm going to replace all the air that's in this with a cactus juice and then bake it. And this will make one solid piece of sweet gum pod. So no more air or moisture can get in there. Well, the cactus juice, the optimum pressure for the reactive properties within the juice, if you go to 195 degrees, it's not quite hot enough for the reaction to occur properly. And if you go over 200 degrees, it will actually bake too fast, and a lot of that juice just oozes right on out of the, say, the sponge, if you will, oozes right on out, and whatever's on deep inside these cavities, it won't bake because it just pushes the liquid out, and so it's not it'll moisture and air can get in there again. So like 200, there's some different stabilizing juices that you can do between 190 degrees and 200, but this specific, they want it right at 200 degrees, and it bakes it. It's the optimum temperature for the greatest set. But yeah, these things will be, if that made any sense. And so like these, I dried in an oven for about 212 degrees for 2 hours to get, because they're outside in a ditch or along the bank below a tree, so there's moisture trapped in them just from being outside, just standard humidity. These things are like a sponge. They'll soak up a little bit of humidity even though they're thin. So 212 degrees is the optimum temperature to where it'll somewhat boil the water. Not really boil, but it'll evaporate. I guess that's what I'm looking for. Water will evaporate at 212 degrees, but it won't cook the sweet gum pods. Sweet gum pods. It won't cook them. So it's right where you want it to get as much moisture as you can out. I put them in that bag right away. I shouldn't have opened it that many times. And then it'll go straight into the vacuum chamber to where out. Now the moisture is gone. Now I've got to get the air out, and that gets the air out. So that is what I'm doing now. I have some pine cones that I'm going to do it to, but this chamber here only holds so much. So I can only put so much in there. So right now it's got the sweet gum pods. I could probably, it's probably got that many in there right now. So I'll have two loads of this, bake them in the oven, convection or a toaster oven for 200 degrees for 2 hours, probably about 2 hours. And yeah, I think it's about 2 hours. And then let them cool off and they'll be hardened. And I could use them to either turn on a lathe, cut on a saw. What I'm going to do is put them in. It'll be a bigger mold than this. I'll fill those pods in here and I'll pour resin in. I don't have any resin out here because it's better off stored inside. Resin in here, and once that sets, I'll take it out of the mold and I can cut it up into pen blanks, turn it into coasters, sell it for rings or jewelry or whatever. And there's lots of different molds. Like I've got this one here, it's more of just a square, but it's not very tall. They become like, I wouldn't say super hard like stone, but they're way harder than the actual, like I've stabilized wood before, and if you took a piece of pine board, everybody knows what pine is. If you took a little sliver of pine, put it in there, sucked the air out of it, replaced it with that juice, cooked it, it would probably weigh, I'm just throwing random numbers out there, But like say the piece before you stabilized it weighed 10 ounces. I mean, that's a pretty big piece. But say 4 ounces, right? After you stabilize it, that thing will damn near double, almost be an 8-ounce piece. And it would feel like almost a piece of oak after I stabilize it. It's not going to turn it to stone. You can still cut it, shape it. You can take a knife and cut it, but it's much harder than the original soft pine would be. I'd show you some things I've done, but they're kind of a secret. I don't want that secret to get out yet. So, and then what I'll do with, once this mold is full, it's got to go. I don't know if you can see down here, there's a thing called a pressure pot that I'll put about 70 to 75 pounds of pressure in that pot. The lid goes on, it gets cranked down with some big like nuts, put air into it, and what that does is it forces that resin, it pushes it into all the cavities of those sweet gum pods. So like right now we're sucking the air out, that'll actually force the resin into any cavities, and it'll sit for 24 hours in that pressure pot at about 70 to 75 psi. And then I'll drain the air out of it, pull it out, and once it's completely set, which will probably take, depends on what mix I use. Could be 3 days. Depends on how small a mold. There's some stuff that 24 hours it's set already. It just depends on what I use. But I hear voices. I hear voices. But yeah, so this is getting better. There's still some micro bubbles coming up through there. So it's still going to be, I don't know, it's 4:06 here, Eastern Tennessee. So minimum 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock. When I start to say, okay, that's probably enough, I'll take the vacuum off of it. It will replace the air with the cactus juice. And then I let it sit twice the amount of time, or let it soak twice the amount of time that you had a vacuum on it. So if I had a vacuum for 3 hours, it needs to soak in there for 6. But what I'll do is I'll shut it off tonight and just let it soak overnight. Therefore, and you can't over soak it. It can soak as long as you need it to. But the better the soak, the better the outcome. And then it goes into the oven to bake at 200 degrees. Yep. It's kind of cool. Shoot, I've been out here 30 minutes already. Yeah, what I want to do is, I've done some of those in the past, like, it's been a couple years since I've done the sweet gum pods. But they look, I wish I had a pen here to show you, but they look super cool and like colored epoxy, like maybe a blue. Blue I like. But I haven't tried. I've got some of this glow in the dark mica powders. It's a blue luminous, but so it would, like, if I turned it into a pen, let's just say a pen, the thing would glow in the dark with the sweet gum pods would kind of poke through the pot. I don't know, kind of cool. I'm not sure if I'll do the glow in the dark, but I think glow in the dark coasters would be cool, wouldn't they? Would you like glow in the dark coasters? I think that would be kind of neat, honestly. Well, it would be, that's the thing. I've got, here's some other glow in the dark pigments, but I don't use them because it's like, what do you use glow in the dark for? Like, seriously, what could you, like, something that you would use epoxy resin for, or just resin? What would you want that would glow in the dark? Like, I did a pen, but it's like, nobody really cares if a pen glows in the dark. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it's not, like, super fabulous. But coasters would be kind of cool. Like, if you're sitting there watching TV and the lights are down, your coaster would kind of glow. That's kind of cool, I think. Or is that corny? I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. It's finally about 60 degrees ish in the hut here. It was 44 when I started. So the heater's doing a good job. It's just on low, but I'm gonna have to go get more propane, I think. It's a cold day today. I think it would be fun to... I wonder what that would look like. Yeah, you could, if you could. Now I have blue resin, like blue pigment. If I were to add the blue glow in the dark, would it like shimmer like sunlight on water, like the moonlight hitting water? That would be interesting. I don't know if I could do that or not. That would be interesting. Because here's some cool colors. You like the blue there? I don't know. Yeah, I'll do the glow in the dark on something. I don't know if I'll do it with these sweet gum pods. I may do it on something small, not to waste the pigment, and just see what it kind of does. Mix it with some of the blue. Who knows? I might just go for it. Yeah. That's what I've got going on. So this pot, just this specific vacuum chamber, should be ready tomorrow to be baked. But what I'd like to do is get some more back in there. I don't have enough cactus juice. What's in that right there was a full gallon. And then, what? About half a gallon? So that 5 gallon, I mean, I wouldn't have anywhere near. I need like another 2 gallons of this stuff if I wanted to do like a lot at one time. That'd be $400 in cactus juice. But the outcome's very cool. What I really need to do is I need to like price out per ounce how much this costs, because you know a lot of times I'll figure out how much the resin is and I'll add that to the cost of say my pen blanks. But well, you can buy it, they sell it, like the more you buy the cheaper it is. But there's other companies out there that have a stabilizing resin that you can buy in like 5-gallon jugs. It's really expensive. But I've never worked with anything other than cactus juice. They're like the gold standard in stabilizing juice. And I just would really, you know, to dive into like a 5 or 6 gallon kit that may cost $300-400 and it not work as well as the stuff you used before. I don't know. I guess there's that fear. I mean, I already have 2 gallons of cactus juice. Just buy 3 more. I think they give you like a $10 break if you buy more than 3 gallons. So instead of $330, it would be $300, like $10 per gallon, which I mean, probably save you in shipping. My leg's hot standing next to the... But I've never really looked it up to see if you could buy that stabilizing resin other than like an off-brand or another brand in bulk. Because, man, I could do a lot with that big 5-gallon pot, man. Woo! Well, if I go off my gauge, I'm at like 28. Yeah, about 28. I don't know a lot about the readings, like what the numbers indicate, like how much vacuum I'm pulling. It says INHG. I don't know a lot of what that means. I go by looking at it. That's what I've always done. I don't care about the numbers. So I can look at it and tell it when it's done. So I've never really paid attention to the gauge, which I probably should learn it. I guess it would be interesting to know, like what what the gauge readings are on in a vacuum, or on a with a vacuum pump, vacuum. Not like you're sweeping or carpeting, but with a vacuum pump. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. I was wondering if both of them have the same gauge on it. Yeah, HG, and then they have a 100 XKPA. I guess now you're gonna make me look it up. It's getting really windy out here. I might have to call it here. I mean, it's getting really windy. Here, I'll take you over here. You can kind of see the bubble still pulling and rising to the top? Yeah. Well, here's the gauge. It is inches of mercury, yeah, because there's so many people that know about that stuff. Yep. But that's still pulling a lot of bubbles out, so it's probably still going to be a little while. For sure another hour, I would think. I'm going to get off of here. Thank you for stopping by, I think. I don't think I got it. I was putting together that big tank and nobody was in the room, right? Or nobody's at the live. It's funny how that works. I got some cool pens I want to put together, but I got to have blanks for them. Other than that, I mean, tomorrow we're going to do some cooking of the cactus juice. And then I'll be firing that thing up again with another load of these sweet gum pods so that I can get some blanks cranked out. Yeah, I've been on for, looks like 40 minutes, so I'm going to get on off here. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to show you a little bit more. This thing's just going to run for another hour or two, maybe two. But that's it. We'll keep the heat going in here for a little while longer, and I'm going to head on out. Thanks for stopping in. Wasn't too bad. I got kind of set up here on the wall with one of my holders, so it's kind of a good view of that. The only problem is this wall's connected to my table, so I was putting that pot together and it's shaking the camera. I was like, I don't know what to do, but I also have, what I want to try is, I got a bunch of like wine corks, and I've never turned cork on a lathe. But I want to throw that in the vacuum chamber and stabilize the cork and see if that would make it a little easier to cut, turn, whatever I want to do with it. This cork is very hard to cut. It just kind of like flies apart into pieces. So I thought it'd be fun to go ahead and stabilize some of that. But what I really want to do, and I'm not going to do it, waste a lot of resin or that cactus juice, is I'm just so want to throw an entire roll of paper towels in there and harden that whole thing and see what happens to it. But I don't want to waste all that cactus juice. At $100 a gallon, I couldn't imagine how much juice would get soaked up into a roll of paper towels. Or even like a toilet paper roll or something. That would be, I mean, like this right here. Could you imagine that in the vacuum chamber? And how much resin or cactus juice that would hold? once you got the air out, and oh my! It'd be kind of cool to turn it and make a lamp out of it or something. I don't know, or cut it up and make coasters. I don't know. Oh, but man, that'd be expensive. What I need to do is get like the cactus juice or a stabilizing resin company to sponsor me and send me that stuff. I mean, I'll be stabilizing everything. I have my damn car tires in there. I'll be throwing freaking crescent wrench and shit in there and seeing if it'll stabilize. Well, after I cooked it, it would get hard. Not rock hard, because it's not like I'm turning it to stone, but it would become like a hammer. You could probably hit things with it. I mean, it still could break and fall apart because it's still just paper towels, but it would get hard enough to where I could put it in a saw and cut it into saucers. I just think it would be kind of a cool coaster, like paper towels as a coaster. I don't know. Who would have thought? But I guess I could always, like, I don't know, try to cut it into a smaller piece and put it in there. I don't know if I'd waste that cactus juice on it. It's just too expensive. Oh, believe me, I'll be laying in bed thinking of all the things that I could stabilize, but I do that anyways. But, yeah. All right. Peace out, everybody. See you tomorrow.